Have you ever felt like the universe is trying to whisper something to you? Those strange, seemingly irrational moments that somehow compel you to pause and reflect. A sequence of numbers keeps repeating, on the clock, license plates, or fleeting receipts, as if someone is trying to send a message. A song suddenly plays at the exact moment you need to hear its message, sending shivers down your spine with its uncanny familiarity. Or maybe you think of an old friend, and out of the blue, they call you. Or you run into them in a crowded place, as if your thoughts had somehow painted that fated reunion into reality. Is it all just coincidence, or is there something deeper at work? Could it be that the universe is indeed communicating with you in the most subtle ways, not through words, but through events, signs, and sudden feelings that stir within your heart? Perhaps this is a quiet form of communication where your internal frequency, made of thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, becomes the language. And the universe, in its own unique way, responds through the very experiences you encounter each day. Today, we're not just exploring the well-known concept of the law of attraction, familiar to many who are passionate about positive thinking and self-development. Instead, we're diving deeper into a new layer of awareness: personal frequency. Each of us is, in essence, like an invisible broadcasting station, radiating energy in the form of thoughts and emotions. And the physical world, the people, circumstances, and events, is merely a reflection of what we're broadcasting from within. You are not merely a physical being living in a three-dimensional world. You are a powerful soul, a creative force on a journey of experiencing human life. When you learn to tune your frequency through deep self-awareness, genuine gratitude, uplifting emotions, and unwavering belief, you gradually align with the very goodness you've always been seeking. And in that state, the magic doesn't happen because you force reality to change. It unfolds because you've merged with its flow. And if you're reading these words right now, perhaps you are already ready to step through the doorway into a world where thoughts are not just fleeting ideas, but potent currents of creative energy. A place where emotions are not merely personal reactions, but magnetic fields drawing in exactly what aligns with your soul. A place where you are no longer a passive observer, but the author of your own reality. So don't dismiss the signs. Nothing is random. Your presence here in this exact moment is itself a message, a signal that the universe is gently reaching out to you, inviting you to awaken and begin shaping the life you were always meant to live. Let me tell you a story that may seem like it's mine alone, but in truth, it could be a missing piece of your own, or anyone's, especially those of us who are struggling to find our path amidst the constant motion and invisible pressures of modern life. It's not a fairy tale. There's no neatly tied ending. It's a journey, and perhaps you are somewhere on this journey too. A few years ago, I was living in doubt. I would wake up each morning with this inner urgency, a push to move forward, to achieve something, to become someone. I chased after society's standards, distant expectations, and invisible checklists that define success by houses, cars, titles, and status. But strangely enough, the closer I got to those goals, the further I felt from myself. I thought I had arrived, but inside, there was an emptiness I couldn't name. Everything began to feel like a loop. I'd achieve, then feel let down. I'd make progress, only to feel lost again. Back then, life felt like a never-ending to-do list, a relentless race with no real finish line. I used to believe that in order to deserve happiness, I had to earn it. I had to do more, be more persistent, sacrifice more. Back then, happiness seemed like a final reward, a luxurious gift reserved only for those who had exhausted themselves enough to be worthy of it. Until one day, I stopped. Not because I had reached the dream destination, but because I couldn't keep going anymore. I was drained, physically, mentally, emotionally. I was tired, confused, and empty to the point where I had no motivation left to keep running. And then, in that quiet moment of helplessness, something soft unfolded. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was deep enough to stop me in my tracks. I began to look inward, not to blame myself, not to judge the choices I had made, but to ask one simple, profound question. If everything in this universe is energy, then what kind of energy am I putting out? That one question, so small and unassuming, became the key that opened the first door to a completely new journey. A journey inward, where truth is no longer something to chase out there, but something to awaken from deep within your own heart. I began exploring the idea of frequency, a concept I once dismissed as mystical or irrational. But the more I learned, the more I listened, the more I practiced, the more I realized it's not something distant or abstract. It's a fundamental principle shaping each of our lives, whether we're aware of it or not. It's not that the world is treating you unfairly or leaving things up to chance. It's that the frequency you emit, formed by your emotions, beliefs, memories, and thoughts, is actively programming the experience you're living. When I shifted my frequency, everything around me began to shift. Not because the world suddenly became more beautiful, but because I started to align with a higher version of myself. I began attracting healthier relationships, more fulfilling opportunities, and above all, I felt peace. A kind of peace that didn't need a reason, that wasn't dependent on outcomes. And if you're reading these words right now, know this: maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe you're also being gently led to the threshold of a deeper awakening. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I don't have all the answers to your life's questions. I'm simply here to remind you, you don't have to keep running. Pause for a moment, breathe, look within. Because sometimes, the thing you've been searching for all these years was never far away. It's been there, within you, quietly waiting for you to listen. Just imagine for a moment, what if this universe isn't simply a giant mass of matter spinning endlessly under cold mechanical laws of physics? What if instead it's more like a grand broadcasting station, a living, breathing system, constantly sending and receiving invisible signals? And in that system, you are a transmitter, whether you realize it or not. Every thought you form, every emotion you feel, every desire, whether quiet or profound, emits a unique vibration, creating your own energetic field, your personal frequency. It's just like how a radio works. You can only clearly hear what's being broadcast on the frequency you're tuned into. If you unintentionally align with the frequency of fear, scarcity, or insecurity, then what you receive will mirror that. Disappointment, stagnation, and experiences that reinforce your negative state. It's not because life is working against you. It's because you're connected to that layer of frequency. The universe, like a vibrating mirror, is simply reflecting back exactly what you're sending out. But the reverse is just as true. If you're filled with gratitude, love, and belief in the good, life begins to play a different tune. Opportunities unfold, kind people cross your path, and even strange coincidences seem to line up perfectly, as if something or someone has orchestrated it all just for you, because you're finally ready to receive it. This isn't just some spiritual philosophy passed down through books or self-help seminars. This is the core of modern physics. Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, once said, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." And he concluded, quite clearly, all matter is vibration. 100 years ago, the visionary Nikola Tesla echoed a similar truth with his prophetic words. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. These scientists weren't just speaking of equations or subatomic particles. They were revealing the very essence of everything, of all matter, all phenomena, and even of you, a being capable of feeling, thinking, and shaping reality through your inner vibrations. Once you understand this, a liberating truth emerges. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the one tuning your own channel. And when you shift your inner frequency, the outer world begins to respond accordingly. Life is no longer something that happens to you. It becomes something that flows from you. You become the sound engineer of your own experience, crafting a reality that you truly deserve, one filled with peace, abundance, and freedom. Remember this: you don't need to control everything out there. You only need to tune the frequency within. And from there, miracles begin to unfold. Not as magic, but as a natural result of alignment. Did you know your emotions can actually be measured by their energetic frequency? Sounds unbelievable? But this is one of the most profound discoveries at the intersection of science, consciousness, and human emotion. Dr. David R. Hawkins, a medical doctor, spiritual teacher, and renowned researcher, spent decades exploring the relationship between human emotions and vibrational energy. From this lifelong research, he developed a groundbreaking tool in the field of consciousness development, the map of consciousness. This isn't just an academic chart. It's more like an energetic compass, helping you pinpoint exactly where your emotional state falls on the vibrational spectrum. And from there, it reveals why you may be attracting certain experiences into your life. At the lower end of the map lie emotional states with very low frequencies. These feelings not only cause stagnation in the body and mind, but they also trap you in a reactive mode of living, where life controls you, instead of you consciously shaping your reality. Let's take a look at some of the lowest frequencies. Shame, 20 Hz, cripples the will to live. It makes you want to hide from your very own existence. Guilt, 30 Hz, triggers self-condemnation, self-punishment, and a deep sense of unworthiness. Fear, 100 Hz, activates a constant defense mode, distorts perception, and creates chronic stress. Anger, 150 Hz, breeds resistance, severs connections, and draws in conflict and confrontation. These emotional states don't just weaken your physical health, they also narrow your vision, making it difficult to recognize the positive possibilities that already exist around you. But as you move to the upper half of the map of consciousness, you enter an entirely different world. A realm where emotions are no longer burdens, but powerful forces of healing and expansion. Here are some of the higher frequencies. Unconditional love, 500 Hz. There's no more need for control, just the natural, effortless flow of giving and receiving. Inner peace, 600 Hz. The mind transcends the ego. You begin to sense the purity of simply being. Enlightenment, 700 Hz and above. Consciousness merges with the wholeness of the universe, a state beyond time, beyond space, beyond separation. These frequencies don't just help you see yourself more clearly. They transform you into a positive, energetic field for everything and everyone around you. You no longer live against the world, but in harmony with it. The most important truth Dr. Hawkins emphasized is this: you have the power to choose where you stand on that vibrational map. Every time you fall into a negative state, you have the ability to shift your frequency through gratitude, simply being thankful that you're still breathing, still feeling. Forgiveness, not to let others off the hook, but to liberate yourself. Mindfulness, returning to the present moment, silencing the war inside your mind. And when you make that shift, you don't just attract better things, you become that better energy. You radiate a light that brings peace to others, even if they don't know why. Because your presence has changed. You don't need a fancy energy meter to know what frequency you're vibrating at. In truth, your everyday life, every fleeting emotion, every spontaneous word, every seemingly unconscious choice is already the most accurate mirror reflecting your current frequency. You don't need advanced machines, you don't need lofty knowledge. All you really need is honesty and a moment of quiet listening. So pause just for a moment and ask yourself, when you open your eyes after a long night's sleep, what's the first emotion that arises? Is it heaviness, emptiness, the sense that a new day is just another loop in a tired cycle? Or is there a flicker of curiosity, even a subtle excitement, a soft spark that makes you want to rise and see what the day might bring? That first feeling at the very start of your day is the opening tone of the frequency you're sending out to the universe. You don't need advanced machines, you don't need lofty knowledge. All you really need is honesty and a moment of quiet listening. When you're talking to someone, a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, listen closely, not just to them, but to yourself. What are you really sharing? Do your words inspire, uplift, and energize? Or do they unconsciously carry complaints, criticism, and negativity? Do people feel warmer after speaking with you, or more drained? Because we don't communicate with words alone. Your emotional frequency is the undercurrent, a silent transmission that travels farther than anything you say. And when life throws something unexpected at you, a failure, a setback, someone who hurts you, that's when your true frequency reveals itself. Do you react with anger, blame, and resentment? Or can you pause, take a deep breath, and choose to see the situation as an opportunity to better understand yourself? Real strength doesn't lie in always feeling peaceful. It lies in your ability to transform low vibrations into lessons that lift you higher. Frequency isn't some mystical idea. It shows up clearly in how you interpret what happens to you, how you treat others, and most profoundly, how you treat yourself. A kind word, a sincere hug, a quiet act of forgiveness, each carries the frequency of healing. On the other hand, cold silence, harsh words, or judgmental glances, these too are signals revealing what frequency you're aligned with. You can't fake positivity and expect to attract goodness. Energy doesn't fool the universe, but you can shift your frequency, not by force, but through presence and acceptance. When you dare to look inward, to face the wounds still unhealed, to recognize the old beliefs quietly shaping your behaviors, you begin to release stagnant energy. And from that very depth, your frequency begins to change, naturally, sustainably, wholly. That's when you begin to observe without judgment, to touch your pain without running from it, to love yourself even in your most imperfect form. Because from the deepest part of you, where you are brave enough to be honest and to heal, a new frequency is born. And over time, that frequency will rewrite the story of your life. How to raise your frequency. Raising your frequency isn't some mystical concept reserved for monks on mountaintops. In truth, frequency shifts happen right here, in everyday life, where you live, where you breathe, where you love, learn, and grow. You don't need to become someone entirely different. You just need to return to and nourish the purest part of yourself that's always been there. Here are 5 simple, yet powerful practices that can help activate and elevate your vibrational frequency. 1. Practice daily gratitude. Begin each morning by writing down 3 things you're grateful for. They could be as simple as the warmth of your blanket, a ray of sunlight streaming through your curtains, the sound of laughter from someone you love. Gratitude is one of the highest frequency emotions available to humans. When you live in gratitude, you tune yourself to the frequency of abundance, and the universe responds by reflecting that back to you. 2. Sit in stillness for 15 minutes a day. Turn off your phone, set aside your tasks. No music, no conversations. Just sit and observe yourself. Let your thoughts pass like clouds drifting across the sky. You don't need to control them. Just be present. This is the moment you reconnect with your original broadcast signal, clearing the static and purifying your frequency. Stillness isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of you, here, now, in full awareness. 3. Rehearse the emotion as if it's already happened. Imagine this: what you desire the most has already come true. Do you feel a deep sense of relief? Do you smile naturally, effortlessly? Do you feel peace in every cell of your body? Emotion is the language the universe understands best. When you live as if your desire has already arrived, you tune your frequency to match its reality and draw it closer in the most unexpected and organic way. 4. Do the things that make you feel alive. Play your favorite song. Take a walk in nature. Write a page in your journal straight from the quiet corners of your mind. Laugh out loud, for no reason at all. Dance like no one's watching. Everyone has their own frequency charger. That special space where you feel reawakened, reconnected to who you truly are. When you fully live in these moments, you don't need to chase a higher frequency. You become it. 5. Let go of what no longer serves you. Jealousy, regret, anger, the sting of past failures. All of these are old energy fragments like dust dimming the light of your inner being. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or ignoring. It means freeing yourself from carrying what no longer fits your path. Gently ask yourself, is this thought, this feeling, this memory still serving me? If the answer is no, exhale and let it go. You don't need to become someone new. You simply need to shed what isn't truly you so that your original light can shine naturally. A high frequency isn't something you climb toward. It's a state you fall into when you return to your most honest, gentle, and authentic self. Start small, and you'll be amazed as the entire universe begins to shift just because you change the way you touch it. A true story, a girl and the frequency she chose to live by. She used to be an office worker. From the outside, her life looked fine. A stable administrative job, a salary enough to manage daily needs, social connections that were just enough to keep loneliness at bay. To others, she was a normal person among many, not exceptional, but not lacking either. But there were things no one could see. Inside her was a quiet, crumbling world, an unnameable emptiness, a shapeless void that never left. Every morning felt like a battle with herself. There was no specific reason, just a heaviness pressing against her chest, a fatigue threading through every step, a strange detachment, as if her own body wasn't hers. She still went to work, still offered polite smiles, still completed her tasks, but her mind seemed to drift elsewhere, to a place where meetings, deadlines, and reports meant nothing. Everything was right, except for one thing. She no longer saw herself in the life she was living. There were nights when she lay in the dark and cried, without knowing why. It felt as if her body was finally speaking for a pain that had been silenced for far too long. She began to lose direction, lose connection, lose herself. No one noticed, no one asked. She was alone, wrapped in a shell that looked perfectly fine. And then, on one very quiet night, when all the noise had finally faded, a question echoed in the silence, not out loud, but from deep within. If I am energy, why can't I shift my frequency? No one had spoken those words. Not a book, not an inspiring video, just a whisper from the soul, as if her spirit was gently knocking on its own door. It wasn't an answer, it was a beginning. The next morning she didn't do anything dramatic. She simply sat down for a few minutes and breathed. For the first time in years of rushing through life, she truly listened to herself. Day by day, she began to write. She journaled her emotions, naming the feelings she thought she'd forgotten, the wounds she had buried, the anger, the sorrow, the memories no one else knew. She began to forgive, not just others, but herself. She began to let go, not to escape, but to lighten her heart. She began to love herself, not in words, but in the smallest of daily actions. And slowly, a new version of her began to be reborn. Not through magic, not with some dramatic transformation, but through small steps, gentle, real, and deep enough to change everything. She is no longer that lost office worker from years ago. Today she is a guide, a voice of healing and presence, inspiring thousands to listen inward, to heal deeply, and to reconnect with their natural energetic frequency. She's not trying to change the world. She simply chose to change the frequency she radiates. And the miracle is, when she did, the world around her began to shift, not because she became someone special, but because she returned to who she truly is. You can say you want love, you can repeat dozens of affirmations every day, but the universe doesn't respond to your words. It doesn't hear empty phrases or forced positivity, especially when your heart still carries doubt, fear, or pain. The universe responds to energy, not what you say, not what you wish, but the vibration you emit in the quiet moments when no one is watching. You can say you want peace, but if you're still battling inside, still holding on to fear, still clinging to things that no longer serve you, then what comes to you will simply mirror that frequency. You don't have to become someone better. You don't need to force yourself to think positive or pretend you've healed. The only thing you truly need is to return to yourself, your original self, pure, untouched, unshaped by others' expectations or the fears rooted deep in your past. Every moment you choose love over fear, acceptance over control, letting go over holding tight is a moment you shift your frequency. And when your frequency changes, so does your reality. Not through magic, but through the natural resonance between you and the higher version of yourself. Life doesn't ask you to control it. It's not a competition, it's not a system you need to conquer. Life is a collaboration between you and every subtle choice you make each day, between you and every emotion you nurture in your heart. The outer world is simply the screen onto which your inner frequency is projected, and you are the one writing that script. You didn't come here just to survive, not to drift through life like a shadow. You came here to remember who you are, to create, to become, to attract, not through blind effort, but through the awakened presence of a soul that has opened its eyes. Step out of the old dream. Stop living as if you are limited, because you are vibration. You are consciousness, alive, and you are the miracle you've been searching for. If this video has touched something deep within you, if there's a part, even the smallest part, inside you that is beginning to wake up, softly, slowly, but undeniably, like a flicker of light piercing through the fog, then trust it is not a coincidence. Click like, subscribe, and share this video with other souls who may be walking in silence, lost in the rush of everyday life, but who, deep inside, still carry a quiet flame, waiting to be reignited. Because sometimes, all it takes is one sentence at the right moment, one message that resonates at the perfect frequency, to shift the course of a person's entire journey. And if you feel ready to begin your journey back to your truest self, Leave this sentence in the comments. As a promise to yourself, I choose to shift my frequency. Not just as a phrase, but as a beginning, a quiet inner commitment, an energetic declaration to the universe that you are ready. Let these words mark the beginning of something new, a moment you'll one day look back on and say, everything started to change when I began to tune into the frequency of my soul. See you in the next chapter of this journey. From heart to heart, we are remembering who we truly are, together. Raising your frequency is not a destination. There's no specific place you need to reach in order to feel whole. No standard you must achieve to be considered high vibe, because raising your frequency isn't a goal. It's a way of life, a way of living that doesn't require perfection. It doesn't need to be flashy or fit into any mold. You're not asked to live like a saint or meet some spiritual benchmark. All it takes is for you to live truthfully, to feel honestly, to love fully, to be fully present. Every time you're honest about how you feel, you raise your frequency. Every time you choose forgiveness over resentment, you realign your inner vibration. Every time you face your pain without running from it, you move closer to the purest version of who you are. And if you're still here, listening to these final words, then I believe a part of you is ready. Not with logic, not with a plan, but with a quiet nod from your heart, that it's time to return to your true frequency. Ready to live as who you really are, not to attract something, but to become the very energy that draws it near. Because you are not just a witness to reality, you are its creator. And the place where your true frequency begins is not in your mind, not in books, not in spiritual teachings, but in the most sacred place you have always carried within you.